Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to talk about two books I've read recently. Both of them are the second in a fantasy trilogy, and so I think that they are good books to compare and contrast. I'm going to start with the book that I liked the most and was super surprising, and that is Grey Sister by Marc Lowrance. So this is his second book in the Book of the Ancestor series. It follows Red Sister, which I read last year, and if you've watched this channel at all, you know that I did not love that book. I had a lot of problems with it, and I questioned whether or not to even continue, but I decided that I would give Grey Sister a chance on audio, because sometimes when I listen to things on audio, some of the problems I have in print disappear. It is narrated by Heather O'Neill. Yes, that Heather O'Neill. And she is phenomenal. I want to say that first and foremost, that if you are thinking about reading this trilogy, please listen to it on audio if you are able, because Heather O'Neill is her accents and just everything. Like, I inhaled it on audio. She's so good. I hope that she's doing Holy Sister. But yeah, so it's really good on audio. And for a while I wondered, am I just enjoying this because it's on audio? But no, I think there are so many ways in which this book is such a more cohesive and just well-structured story than Red Sister. So Grey Sister picks up about 2 years following the events of Red Sister. I'm not going to get into major plot spoilers, so you don't have to worry about that. And the narration, the book opens with like a reintroduction to everything. So it explains like a quick rundown of the world, the magic system, the characters. And I don't understand why every single book in a series doesn't have this to open the story. It was amazing and phenomenal and solved one of my biggest problems with Red Sister, which I assume after he received some good criticism, Marc Lowrance decided to include this because the world building in the first book, to me, is so confusing. It did not work. I never could envision like the full sort of political structure of the world, or like who was the leader, what was wrong with the world, like why so much drama, like why was it kind of bleak. Like, I just couldn't understand. And then so this like introduction section was the perfect antidote to that, and it got me started off on the right foot, and so I didn't have to worry or ask any of those questions anymore because I understood. So I really appreciated that. I also really appreciated that this book didn't just take place for the most part at the school. I thought that being at the school in the first book for so long felt repetitive and got pretty boring. This one is there for a while and then takes off, like goes on sort of like a road trip, and then to like another setting at the very end that's very exciting. And so like the action and like the pacing kind of ramps up throughout the whole thing. So there's no, like, to me, there's no dead space in the middle. There's no dead space at the end, which I really felt like Red Sister had quite a bit of dead space after about the first half. So that really worked for me. And I think another major thing that Grey Sister does is it makes the villain, the antagonists of this story, very clear. I knew what the characters were up against. I knew whose side I was on, who I wanted to win. And I don't think Red Sister did that very well. I knew some people were vaguely bad, but like not really sort of, it just didn't give me enough like drive to know like why I should be rooting for the people I'm rooting for. And I think Grey Sister cleared all of that up. Other things that Grey Sister, I think, just as its own thing, as a good fun story. I cared about all of the characters. Their relationships kept developing, and I cared about how they cared about each other. Like Apple and Kettle, Nona and Ara, Nona and Darla, like all of the girls. It was just it was just a lot better. At the end of the day, it was just a lot better to me. And I am super pumped. You know, it did its job. It made me want to read Holy Sister, like, so badly. Like, I'm just sitting here now hotly anticipating the release of that book, and I'm excited to read it in audio and to have all of them on my shelves proudly now, without having to just hate Red Sister and wonder what I'm missing that everyone else seemed to not miss. So very excited that I enjoy Grey Sister. And again, I highly recommend it on audio if you are still kind of on the fence, or if you struggle with Red Sister. Like, give the Grey Sister audio a chance. It's on script. It's really fantastic. And I feel like I can't sing its praises enough. The second book I want to talk about, sadly, sort of the opposite, in that I did not like it nearly as much as the first book. And that is The Girl in the Tower by Catherine Arden. This is the second book in her Winter Night trilogy. It follows The Bear and the Nightingale, which was itself a very divisive book in the community here on BookTube. So I think also, in my opinion about this, is not popular. I think most people who like The Bear and the Nightingale really liked The Girl in the Tower as well, and I've seen most of them really like the final book. So yeah, I want to put it down. This is a series that I'm a little bit reluctant to hate on too much, the second book, because I feel like I want to finish the trilogy before I know how much I fully like or dislike this one. Right now, I'm leaning in about a 3-star rating, which is not bad. And I listened to this in audio too, and I thought the audio was great. I'm wondering if without the audio experience, I would have rated it even lower than 3. I don't know. And so that's one of the reasons I just kind of want to read the third book, see how it all shakes out. Particularly Vasya, can't really say her name the way like Russians would. I want to see how her characterization and her development shakes out, because I think she's one of my biggest problems. So book 2 picks up pretty much immediately after the events of The Bear and the Nightingale. Vasya's on the run. She wants to go off and explore the world. Just her. She wants to not get married and be forced into like the normal gender roles that are expected of her in this sort of medieval Russian time period. And so she is disguising herself as a boy and doing her travel thing. And of course, she runs into trouble because there's these sort of bandits running around, like destroying whole villages. She ends up running into her brother and sister and ending up back in Moscow with all the kind of the political stuff that's going on there. And I think what didn't work for me first is I think it lost sort of the magical atmosphere of the first book. I liked that sort of slightly foreboding, very magical wintry forest vibe of The Bear and the Nightingale, and The Girl in the Tower is not that. It is far more like plot driven and action driven, politically like involved. There's magic, but it never felt magical. I don't know if that makes sense, but just that atmosphere, you know, was gone. And so that in itself made it feel flat for me. But like I said, Vasya, her character. So in the first book, she's very young. There's all these kinds of forces antagonizing her. She's learning a lot. She's difficult. And I liked her. In the second book of a series, I would expect my heroine to begin to grow as a person, to develop in interesting and logical ways. Not that she can't still make mistakes, but that at least she's beginning to understand that she has made a mistake and can begin to learn from them. Vasya, I feel like a lot of the mistakes she was making was in the name of like wanting to be this kind of independent woman and feminism and all this stuff, but she was never stopping. And like, I don't know if Catherine Arden is not also stopping to examine the fact that the decisions she was making in the name of independence were, I mean, her decisions were hurting other people. They were stupid. Sometimes it's important to know when you need to ask for help. And I just feel like none of that is something she's concerning herself with until maybe the very end. But even then, she goes off to save the world all by herself. It's like, I don't know. I just think she made a lot of dumb decisions, and I don't think they were examined enough. I didn't see any character development with her. I loved her interactions with her siblings, but her siblings are like older and they know things, and I'm glad they really sort of were like, put her in her place sometimes, but I'm not sure she was ever listening. And I don't know that the takeaway at the end of the story is that she should have listened to her siblings, or like that Vasya was right and her siblings should like grovel at her feet. I don't know. I'm a little bit confused. There was also a scene that really left a very bad taste in my mouth, of which there are a lot of plot holes in this book, and there's a lot of predictability because I think the plot's very simplistic. Another but more minor problem I had, and there's, of course, when she's dressing up as a boy to disguise herself, you know at some point she's going to be revealed to be a girl. I mean, you know that. And the scene where that happens was really awful to me. I mean, she's literally undressed, and that has very strong transphobic undertones, and it did not work. I think it was a bad idea. There are a million ways you could play that out, and she picked like the worst one, so I didn't like it. I also think the villains in this book, the main new villain of this book, is dull. I didn't understand him or his like motivations. I thought the romantic elements between Vasya and Marasco they started out really great in the first half of the book, and then I think they just kind of fell apart in the back half. Yeah, there were a lot of problems for me. Like, you know, a whole plot hole that could have just been solved had she cut her hair. I don't know, like, it just, I kept stopping when I was reading and being like, was that a good idea? And like, when I start having thoughts like that off and on, it's a good thing I'm listening to an audio, because I would have really struggled in print. So that's unfortunate. But I do think the third book, because I feel like all of this particular plot was kind of wrapped up in the second book, so I think the third book still has potential to kind of get it back to where I want it to be, to push Vasya in a better direction, to have her and her siblings figure it out, and to bring a little bit more magic and atmosphere back. So we'll see. So yeah, that's currently how I've been doing in the reading sequels department. A little bit of up and down, but that's to be expected. I was so pleasantly surprised by Grey Sister, let down by The Girl in the Tower, but I think there's still hope. So yeah, let me know if you've read either of these books down below, what you thought of them. Are there any sequels that you really, really love or that you really, really hate? How do you feel about second books in general? They're such a difficult, I guess, thing to write. Most of the time I feel like they're not necessary. I wish a lot of trilogies were duologies, but I'm not doing the writing. I'm not doing the marketing. I'm not doing any of it, so I don't get to make these decisions. Yeah, so I will see you guys next video.